Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cage Rage Podcast. I'm your host Chadillac with fight analyst Miguel. Miguel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing real good, Chad. I'm a little blind, but cooperating with the show, taking off the glasses. If I got to do some research, I'm going to put them on, though. But other than that, all good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. You know, this just goes to show that we do listen to what you're trying to say to us. So everything that you write in and you tell us about, we are actually trying to make differences and fix and do adjustments so that we are more watchable and more pleasing to the audience's eye, as hard as that might be for the two of us to be. But anyways, we're ready to go. So, big news today in MMA. Oh, Conor and Khabib. Miguel, you were so close. You were so close. Everybody said, oh, Khabib's going to get 6 months. He's not going to get anything. It's all over with. Nobody knows anything. Oh, blah, 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 blah. What happened? Miguel, tell me about it. What was the deal?
All right. I mean, basically, the Nevada Commission had a meeting on this past Wednesday. I believe it was the 24th of October for the record. But the bottom line is they did nothing. You know, they had withheld Nurmagomedov's purse, which I think at the end of the day is the real power of the commission. The power they have over Nurmagomedov that they didn't have over McGregor over the bus incident. There was no purse for McGregor for that week that they held up or could tie up. So there's nothing that he could suffer. They could fine him and ask him to pay, but Nurmagomedov, they're going to take the money out of his pay, right? So at any rate, they had held up his purse and they decided to give back half of it. So Khabib gets $1 million that he gets by with now.
Okay, so let's look at point one. Miguel was right, except you were off by 10%. You thought they would take 40%. They took 50%. Okay.
Well,
I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Right. I don't know that they've taken it just yet, like per their procedures.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get that everything's still in flux, but more or less, this is where we're at right now. If we had to look,
you were right too.
Hold on. If we have to go to the records today, as of right now, indefinite suspension. Khabib gets 50% of his pay, etc. and so forth, and I'll let you go from there. I just wanted to point out to all the naysayers that said we didn't know what we were talking about again and again and again, that we knew what we were talking about again and again and again. So, go ahead.
And to be clear, the commission, I've used the word bureaucracy before, and that is what it is. So they really didn't do anything. They didn't make any final decisions. They put off everything and claim they're going to still be investigating. Within the investigation.
Okay, let me just point out point number 2 where Miguel was right. You said, in all honesty, at the end of our last podcast, you said, in all honesty, the probability that they do anything at all is very slim. And you believe that they would probably do nothing, they would delay everything, and that everything would be sort of suspended, but it would be suspended in a suspension, more or less. So there's the second point that you were absolutely correct about. Proceed, please.
The commission really always looks bad when you look at them in these types of situations because they're under a lot of scrutiny, right? They love nothing more than to come in, have a smooth show, collect their fees, and go home, right? That's the best thing.
Yeah.
When there's judge controversies or anything like this, and now people are watching, they really, are almost like they're not ready for it. They always look bad, right? So they always opt for caution, and that's sort of what happened here. They extended the suspensions. Suspensions right now don't matter. Khabib wouldn't be fighting now even if everything had been fine. McGregor wouldn't be fighting now even if everything had been fine. So right now, those suspensions are absolutely useless. Although they allow them to say, oh, we're going to suspend him for a year, but they make a decision later, it's retroactive, so the guys get to fight more or less, in a shorter period of time. And that's what's going to happen. Again, the difference with the McGregor bus incident is McGregor didn't have a purse there. Once you have a purse, the procedure is that the purses are put in control of the commission. The commission can withhold or make sure everybody gets paid. And, that mechanism is there for promoters that don't pay their fighters, right? So the commission could go after them and get the money, and they have the money before the fight, and so everything's taken care of. But in this administrative procedure, what the commission is allowed to do now is they can tie up the purse. So they gave Khabib $1 million. They said, here's $1 million. of your $2 million purse. And, you know, we're going to decide later what's going to happen with the official suspensions and official word. You can't fight for now. So Khabib gets $1 million. I think that was part of the problem. I think, you know, at the end of the day, affecting the money was something, you know, I think that put up another wall between Khabib and a settlement of this whole thing. You know what I mean? Not that he didn't expect it or hadn't read that the commission could do that or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, he'd fought and he won. I don't think there was any way he didn't think that he'd be held up and wouldn't get paid for a month. You know. So now he's going to get half his purse. They could give him the other half. They could, at the end of this procedure, they could say, all right, we're going to suspend him a year, retroactive, so he fights after October of next year. They could fine him and say, we're going to fine him $500,000, so here's another $500,000 back from your purse. Or they could fine him nothing and give him the other, the other portion back, and they've just withheld it. But they'll probably take a small, some percentage. I don't know. I was guessing with the 40. I figured 800,000 might be the final a final, 40% of the purse or something like that might be the final administrative decision we get down the line from them. So I was shooting in the dark. They've tied him up, so they messed with his money basically. How much they keep, I don't know. When the Nevada Commission fines and does the stuff like that, the money goes into a state fund. So it's not like it goes back to like drug testing or anything like that for the sport.
Yeah.
It goes off and they do other things with it, ATF Christmas parties or something like that. But it doesn't even go right back into the sport. So Khabib just smoked 400,000, 800,000 or whatever they find him at the end that goes into the pot. But it hasn't got in there yet. They've held it up no more. McGregor also suspended. So now I think that one of the things I said the commission is going to want to do, they've absolutely achieved. And I didn't even mention, I thought McGregor would get away scot-free, but they snuck a suspension in on him here.
They sure did.
And at the end of the day, all that is, again, McGregor wouldn't be fighting now, so it doesn't matter. He's probably medically suspended for catching an ass whooping anyway for 60 days or something. So it matters absolutely nothing, except when they go to non-fight people and their bosses in the state government to justify their position, they'll say, "Oh no, we suspended both fighters." That's all it is.
Right.
It's action,
So it's just bureaucracy in action, and they're trying to prove that they run the show, and we know that's what they do. The commissions come in and they do the stupidest things you can possibly do to make sure that everybody knows they're in charge. It's annoying. They're an annoyance in almost every single facet that they can be. But in the end, in some weird way, they're needed. And I guess we see sort of both sides of that right now. So,
well, the problem is that it's an archaic and old system. Okay, and
it's not going to change because there's too many people's pockets that are filled with it. I mean, you're talking about guys that are unelected officials that are selected to be put into these positions, and they're in there for life, and that's their job. And they work about 4 days. They work about 4 days a month, on average. I
mean, in the more complicated commissions like Nevada and New Jersey, things like that, they're full-time employees. I mean, there is work and things that get done there.
How many more people does Nevada have working for them?
Yeah, I don't know, but New Jersey could clearly have 6 or 8 full-time employees. So Nevada had more. I haven't been licensed in Nevada in 10 years, so I can imagine it's changed. So, but the point is in terms of administration, they're always the same, and the limitation always comes down to the same thing. It's a state system. The federals handed it to the states, so now the states have a right. Now, the limitations have always been there with the states. Now you have a power like Nevada that rises up. Here, what could they actually do to McGregor for his transgression in New York? Why would the New York Commission not have stepped in? Because the New York Commission had no ties to McGregor. McGregor was there making an appearance. He wasn't there. Sure, he could have been suspended for fighting in the state, and all the commissioners do that or anything like that. They didn't do any of that because at the end of the day, he was not a UFC fighter. They had no purse to tie into, and that's all they can really do is work their administrative processes. So McGregor now gets suspended. They say, oh, McGregor got suspended. That looks good on paper. That really looks good on paper. And I think that's all they're trying to do is survive that. With Nurmagomedov, I think one of the issues that we had brought up, which is that a reconciliation with him isn't going to be all that easy. It isn't just going to be about throwing money out at him. The kid's got a little bit of disrespect on, where he's been disrespected, where he's in the right in some of this stuff. And, you're going to have to take care of that and let him know that you acknowledge that in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know what the UFC does here. The UFC basically is kind of in the same boat as the fighters and us right now. They don't know what the commission's going to do. They can try to influence, and they might have off-the-record conversations and have an idea and stuff. But at the end, what I see is the commission will meet again in a few months. They'll announce a moderate suspension for Nurmagomedov, retroactive, so that he'll be limited from fighting as little as possible. I think it'll be a year. And possibly giving back a portion of the purse that's held up still, and officially fine them with the rest of the purse, because right now it's just held up. It's not an official fine, but they can officially fine him, put $400,000 in the state funds, and give them back 600 of the million that they're doing there, or they could do 800. They can do whatever they want. But something like that will get announced down the line. It'll be retroactive. Khabib will be available to fight as relatively as soon as possible, rather, and then from there it's up to the UFC to mend fences. And with the way they catered to McGregor and stuff, see, that's the thing is the McGregor thing is McGregor. They did extend things that they didn't extend to other fighters, right? So there was some privilege there. There was some including stepping over, guys for title fights and things like that. And I mean, money. Trumps everything, so that's fine. I mean, the guy was the money cow, so that's why he got that. But you kind of reap what you sow, and that is what this is now. Because what's the right thing to do? I don't know. Like I said, my path, I would chart it the way I mentioned it to you. I would have Khabib sitting per the commission. As soon as McGregor is unsuspended, I would rush him into an interim title fight, or if you want to strip Khabib, you could strip Khabib. Maybe at this point you don't strip Khabib for the respect factor. I thought, for the money and stuff, but maybe you leave Khabib the champion so that he doesn't feel forgotten. He feels a little bit of love, but you do the interim belt, McGregor and Ferguson, and that pretty much, if Ferguson wins, that'll be McGregor's third loss in a row, including Mayweather, and that should put a damper on some of his training. You know what I mean? The UFC doesn't want that.
I just can't imagine him letting him fight Ferguson. That makes no sense at all. I don't think he can beat Ferguson. First of all, he damn sure can't beat Ferguson on the ground. His gas tank's terrible. And look, we don't know what McGregor's like when he's on top. He seems to be able to play a pretty good ground and pound. He's long. He's able to kind of stand up, work the legs, come through, split them, throw some punches down, do a few hammers, whatever, and then let him back up and do his thing again. But what he's not able to do is handle anyone on top of him at all. The moment that guy gets pressure, he gasses instantly. He's afraid of pressure on top of him. He has some kind of an anxiety issue. I've seen this over and over again in the gym. I have it myself at times, where somebody gets on top of you, and that just the idea of having that weight on top of you that you can't get off of you becomes an anxiety problem, and the anxiety overwhelms you so much that you just can't catch your breath no matter what you do. It's as if you're drowning. And I mean, it could be a little bitty guy compared to a big guy, but it is as if you are drowning. And McGregor has that look to me. He has that look when someone's on top of him, like he's just gotten into the deep end and he can't swim. And until that guy does something about his bottom game, I don't see him going anywhere else in this. I mean, he might as well go down to 135, because I don't think he can do anything else at 55. I don't think he can do anything else at 45. And he can't make 135 again, so what's he do? He's got to fight Diaz, because Diaz isn't going to play a top game with him.
Right. And that's what the UFC is going to have to do. The UFC's already stated their preference, I think, is Nurmagomedov and Ferguson, and that's fine by me, because if Nurmagomedov comes back soon enough and Ferguson's not on the shelf, Ferguson deserves to fight. You know, you don't leave him on the shelf and wait here, you know, for the thing.
And I think Ferguson wins that fight.
It's the fight that has to happen, and it does sit McGregor off to the side. But McGregor would sit and fight Diaz or Anderson Silva or some other ridiculous type of thing like that, and he's still going to make money. And yeah, they got to get him a win too, right? So that sort of keeps the whole thing going, and that's what I expected to do. But if Nurmagomedov is off the shelf for a prolonged period of time, there's no reason to leave Ferguson off the shelf. Ferguson's a guy who's been hurt before.
Not fair.
You know, if he's hurt and he's been on the shelf, that's one thing. But now, if he came through, and he came through a pretty good fight, a tough fight, if he came through healthy, you got to get that guy in the ring again. You know, within 6 months, easily, if he's already gotten to that point, you know, maybe 4 months, you know, depending.
I'm good with it.
You know, they would like to fight more often than once every 6 months, twice a year. So, I don't know, but Ferguson's the guy who can't sit. You can't sit and wait for this, and you can't sit and wait. You got to make a decision. And my decision would be, all right, Ferguson and McGregor. You put McGregor back in the title shot, but at the same time, as a company, you're making the statement that, yeah, you're willing to put the McGregor money train aside and force him to do a real fight. I don't
see that. I don't see that. Look, he's got the Diaz the Diaz franchise is waiting. Diaz franchise is waiting. Mysteriously, Poirier gets hurt. Okay? So all of a sudden now we've got Nate without a fight. We've got Conor who's sort of indefinitely suspended, and Nate doesn't have a fight right now. Nate could take some push-through fight, or he could just not take a fight at all and say, no, my next fight is going to be this fight because that's the fight I'm supposed to have. Because he wants to make the money. He knows that's his payday. And I don't see the UFC doing anything else but that. If they do, they're fucking idiots. They're crazy. No, if they put, look, if Ferguson and Conor McGregor is ridiculous. You think Khabib beat the shit out of Ferguson will stand up and beat Conor up, and when he's done beating him up standing up, then he'll take him down. He'll get on top of him and beat him up. And then if Conor's lucky enough somehow to get him over, which will never ever happen because he doesn't have a sweep in his game, but if he does learn one, he's going to get armbarred, and Ferguson's going to hand him his arm, and they're going to hand him a bow. And that's going to be the end of it. And then Conor's going to be dead. And their money train's dead. Because that's 3 losses in a row. That's 3 guys that he just can't beat. They should put him in there with Nate because it just doesn't make any sense to do anything else financially. The UFC's not stupid. They want to make money. They signed him to 8 fights for a reason. You don't sign a guy to 8 fights for nothing.
The reason to do it is because of the sport, you know, and
sport
never
show up
money, but
this isn't the sport.
But you have to
okay, if this is a sport, then how come Conor fought Khabib? Where's rankings? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know it's ridiculous.
Keep him out of that fight.
That's not even worth talking about. That's ridiculous. Come on. Seriously.
I mean, the thing is everything you stated is correct, right? That Ferguson will probably beat McGregor. I don't know how the fight will go. I don't know if it'll go exactly the way you said it, but probably Ferguson beats McGregor, right? And why is that a reason to not do the fight? Oh, it's not a reason to not do the fight, but the reason to not do the fight is because of the money. Oh, okay. So the money is deciding the matchmaking.
Yes, yes. Money decides matchmaking.
But that's the flaw. That's the flaw in everything. That's the flaw that you got to fix to get Khabib back.
You think the UFC's here to fix that flaw?
You don't think Ferguson noticed it. You don't think every single athlete on the UFC roster would notice and take an effect and say, "Oh, they're gonna make him do a real fight to earn that $100 million or whatever he makes, nowadays for a fight. They're going to make him do a real fight and not bring him along, just like they do for everybody else, just like they do for Eddie Alvarez. When Eddie Alvarez comes in and you eat Cerrone first, and I don't even know, they were all tough fights, right? Cerrone was the first one.
Eddie never had an easy fight.
The title fight, and he had his title early on, but that's not the matchmaking that McGregor's getting. McGregor's getting stand-up guys, and matchmaking now would be something where if he's at the upper echelon and he's a two-time champion, then there should be absolutely no limitations to who you put him into. With Ferguson as the #1 contender, the only reason to not do that fight is because he gets beat. And
that's right. But Miguel, that's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Look, I'm not trying to say that Conor's not.
The UFC has a problem, though, because they have their own fighters saying that they kowtow to McGregor. And it's clear as day that they do. Everybody knows that. They'll almost even admit to it. And they'll say, the money and stuff, and that makes it right. You would have a roster full of people, an entire roster full of people who would take notice that that's a positive step if they actually had the balls to do it and sink the McGregor train. But they won't. And I mean, every fighter makes more money probably because of the McGregor, the trickle-down effect. If Reebok makes more money, everybody's going to make more money. And
sure.
So every single fighter, at the end of the day, has benefited from McGregor. I'm not saying that. But there are a bunch of guys, Frankie Edgar, for example. Here's a guy who, why didn't Frankie ever get to fight McGregor for the world championship at 145? Didn't work out that way. Maybe Frankie, because he's small in stature, McGregor's so long and stuff, maybe it was a matchup that they should have done, that McGregor would have that win. I don't know at this point. But I know at the time, Frankie was the guy that everybody thought, McGregor is going to have a hard time with that guy, and Frankie's freaking hard as nails, right? So that would have been a real fight for him. Never happened. So
sure did.
In order to avoid that, Frankie Edgar would look at McGregor versus Ferguson saying, at least they didn't do what they did to me again. At the very least. And, all those are reasons to lean towards the other thing, and maybe they're going to make money anyway, right? The money's coming in. They have weekly shows. It's not like they can claim poverty. What they're trying to do is trying to cash in 9 figures instead of, 8 figures or whatever. There's no harm in that, but there is a trade-off, right? And there's not a formula that's proven. All it does is it brings a huge influx of cash, but there's not a formula that's proven where somebody's tried to do just a sportive way for 15, 20 years, handle it that way and see if it picks up because people watch it, because some people, think the UFC's a zoo. It's not a ranked system. It's not a sport, right? So, what if it was like baseball? In baseball, the Yankees aren't in the World Series every time. They lose sometimes, so you don't get McGregor in the $100 million fight every time. Every time the Yankees aren't in the World Series just makes less money probably, right? You have these franchises that are national and stuff, they're bigger and stuff, but sometimes you get the Houston Astros that break through and win. You know what I mean? So you're in a situation where the UFC, when they throw out the true sport, the chase for the championship, the chase to be the #1 guy and stuff like that, and you have some fighters doing that and then other fighters that have other rules, it causes stress to the entire system. The rules should be the same for everybody all the time. They weren't here. The UFC could send their entire roster a message that McGregor's back on the same rules as everybody else.
They could do that. Do you believe there's any chance that they? Really? Do you really believe they'll do that?
No, I don't think they'll do it. No, I don't think they will. I think
so. What you really think is you think Diaz and McGregor are going to fight, or they may even give McGregor somebody easier to make sure he gets a win.
Yeah.
Is that really what you think? Rankings and all the bullshit aside, the reality of what fight game is, what happens?
McGregor's got 7 fights left on his 8-fight deal, right?
Yep.
So they got to start getting him fights. He's suspended right now, so I think they'll probably keep the ideas on the shelf until he's officially back or whatever. He may be unsuspended. for the ass whooping he got, they could give him a 6-month medical too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just let him sit out and rest and you know, heal your body. He'd been off for a while and stuff. I mean, to me, 90 days would be fine, and he could be back in the gym. He could fight, you know, early next year, the Super Bowl or one of those big shows. You want him for the big shows. I don't want to disrespect McGregor that way because, you know, if he was that terrible, then, you know, he would have lost to Dustin Poirier and we'd never have heard of him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, you know,
but what
I
about,
don't want to disrespect so much. So you are going to reserve New Year's Eve. That looks like it's already going to some of the other fighters, including Cyborg and things like that. But you got the Super Bowl, so maybe the Super Bowl. If not the Super Bowl, you got you got Cinco de Mayo weekend if you want to fuck with boxing. Canelo's probably going to be there, so they're not going to want to do that. But you got the July 4th, which they usually do their conventions and stuff in. So they'll put McGregor in one of those, and they'll bring in, I noticed that the Anderson Silva talk starts up and doesn't go away, and I know it's disgusting, but Anderson Silva, at the end of the day, if you recall back a few years ago, was one of those guys who also the UFC signed near the end of his career. I don't know if it was an unlimited fight contract or like a 20 fights. It was something absurd where they made a big commitment to him for a lot of fights. They haven't been able to do anything with it because of steroids and now old age and matchmaking and things like that. So he's never going to come close to, even having another 3 fights or whatever.
Well, I mean, that was just, don't let him go to Bellator.
What if they could sneak him in for one more? The bottom line is could they squeeze? That's going to be Ireland and Brazil. The states will watch it. But is Brazil's economy strong enough? Are they good enough that they can squeeze, 30, 40, 50 million bucks out of Anderson Silva versus McGregor out of that market? Do you do it in Sao Paulo? Do you do it in Dublin? You have Silva's fought in England before. Not that Dublin is England, I respect that, but he's gone over there. He's fought in the cage rage shows, and he's been an extensive, part of his resume occurred over there and stuff. So, it's not out of the question, and that heads into more Bellator territory, kind of with because Silva should be retired. But,
well, I think that's what the UFC's idea is when they see a guy like Silva, like GSP, like McGregor, these are guys that they know, look, we've either got to sign them until they're really done, and if we don't do that, then they're going to go to Bellator, and Bellator is going to pay them a lot of money to fight chumps, and they're going to take it all day long because they're going to sell a lot of tickets, and Bellator knows that. And so Bellator, they've been just sniffing around the edges waiting for the time to come, and the UFC's too smart for that, and I think they're always going to be too smart for that. Bellator's just going to have to slowly get their comeuppance in that way. I think they're doing it, and they're doing it with the circus, but seems to kind of be working a little bit. They have less empty seats than they used to have. They still couldn't sell a pay-per-view to save their lives, but whatever. Speaking of pay-per-view, so do you have any idea what Conor's numbers were on the pay-per-views with this?
So, yeah, I saw something where Dave Meltzer had reported a pay-per-view number. At this point, they're all estimates and stuff, but this is what you got to understand. Diaz and McGregor did like 1.65 million pay-per-views. And the estimates for Khabib and McGregor is 2.4. So they smashed it. They smashed it. So they're going to have to notice that in terms of McGregor did that. I don't think, Khabib's last fight to this one, that he's elevated his star that much, although I think he's done a good job in, I don't know marketing, I know his English is poor and stuff like that, but I think he's done a good job in presenting himself as a man and as a person from Chechnya or from his country as a Dagestani or whatever he is. He's been proud and he hasn't backed off of it. And I think, it's hard to see a worldwide star from that country because it is a smaller country or he considers himself Russian too, He's actually said for us Russians and stuff. So he also has some of that, but I think at the end of the day, he's conducted himself as a star. I think he should make $10 million for his next fight, no matter who he fights. It shouldn't be McGregor now has to be his opponent for him to cash in. He can now carry his own weight, and he can now, I don't think you have to pay him McGregor dollars, but McGregor at the end of the day has sponsors and other things that are working for him, right? But if McGregor got $3 million on his purse for the fight, Khabib gets the $3 million plus Reebok money plus stuff. Now you're talking he's making a few $1,000,000 a fight. That should be Khabib next. That's the right thing to do. Hopefully, he keeps winning and people, keep buying his pay-per-views to see him and stuff, and the money keeps coming in, or that might never happen, McGregor's the guy. Right now there's an imbalance at the top of the UFC with McGregor's money and then everybody else, John Jones may have the potential to tap that type of money for what he does for the company. Brock Lesnar is going to make money, in terms of the amount McGregor does more for the UFC than Brock Lesnar does,
Okay.
In terms of marketing, in terms of associating his name and his brand with them. Lesnar's a real free agent, but they're going to pay Lesnar. But, are they paying Demetrius Johnson? Are they paying? They just let Demetrius Johnson go. If you saw, did you see that? They didn't really let him go. I mean, I'm being facetious,
okay.
But they orchestrated a trade. Get this, and if this works, this is something actually that's notable news in MMA. And I think if you missed it, let's go over because that happened the last couple of days too. They came to an agreement with One. Now, if you keep in mind, One out of Singapore is the biggest MMA company in Asia right now. Their matchmaker is Matt Hume, and Matt Hume is the also the manager on the stateside and the trainer of Demetrius Johnson. So what they've sort of organized with them is that DJ is going to go over there and fight, and that's good because I think Asia will open up and have a lot more 125 pounders for him to showcase his stuff. He'll get more fights in a better spot than the UFC because the UFC really at 125 pounds. And what the UFC gets back is they get back wrestler Ben Askren.
Well,
Askren undefeated. Askren put it in answer. We had a fan asking the question about was McGregor's bugaboo still going to be the ground game and stuff like that. See if Ben Askren's name ever comes up for McGregor's next match. There's no way would put him in with a wrestling expert like that. McGregor could get by with his ground game, and I'm giving him credit because he's already gotten to the elite of the fights. I go back to the Poirier fight. I thought Poirier would put him away and we'd be done with the guy. He was already starting to get boisterous and starting to come up, and I thought Dustin was tough enough. Didn't work out that way. He knocked Dustin out quick. We see Dustin's a pretty good fighter. So, I was wrong. I was hoping Eddie Alvarez would do something. You know what I mean? It's like, but McGregor survived enough that you can't just disrespect him and say he sucks or he's not there. So
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
No. I know you didn't say that. I know the fans are particularly saying that, but they're still looking for his limitations and things.
His limitation is that he can't beat somebody who's heavy on top of him, and he can't get him off of him. So Askren comes in. What does that do? Well, okay, first of all, let's just pretend that the UFC got completely stupid, lost their minds for 10 minutes, and said, Ben Askren, your first fight is with Conor McGregor. How bad does McGregor look on that, and what's that do to his celebrity?
He's going to be asked to do different tests. He's not going to get that. There's no way.
I'm just in a fantasy world. Just play.
In a fantasy world, Askren has been one of the most successful wrestlers to just come over from pure college and amateur wrestling into the UFC. He's undefeated. He's got certain things about him that make you question him. If you're kind of a superficial fan. For example, he was making fun of Nick Diaz too because Nick Diaz is noodle arms, but Askren's not exactly Adonis. You know what I mean? But he's the real deal. You know what I mean?
For
and
sure.
Everybody who's grappled with him and real people and I know Jake Shields talked to me about him a long time ago. Ben Askren is a very, very unique wrestler because his wrestling game gets him to where he is, elite in MMA. But I don't know that he's got the complete MMA package, you know. So if somehow he were in against a better wrestler who could put him on the bottom, he might have some of the same limitations as McGregor because he's not used to being there. So you don't know, but no, Askren's never going to get a chance to fight McGregor. It's not even going to come up. His name's come up as a potential fight against George St. Pierre.
Well, what about Khabib?
The guy they're having trouble matchmaking for.
What about Askren and Khabib?
I don't know.
That makes sense.
Weight class.
That's an awesome fight. He could cut.
Askren goes to 70 though. I don't think.
Yeah, but he could cut. They could do a catch.
It could be done, but I don't think. Here's the thing: is that Askren is an interesting guy because he's an elite guy that wasn't on the roster, but he's not a huge name in terms of drawing power. I think a lot of MMA heads are interested in seeing it, and I think, you know, if he fought a couple times and won, it's been a while. I don't know that like everybody in one is like, oh, Askren's going to the UFC, you know what I mean? Or all of Asia wants to see the one champion in UFC. I don't think he got to that level of popularity. So I think he's got to come in and now do the Eddie Alvarez route. I think he comes in and gets St. Pierre, which is good money.
Yep.
But St. Pierre is not going to be an easy fight for him, but I think that makes sense. And then from there, you see where he goes in right at 170, because you could put him in against Tyrone Woodley, you know.
I mean, if he beats St. Pierre, man, that's a whole different caliber of fighter suddenly. He starts
I mean, but Askren
that's instant stardom. That's big.
Askren, I think, comes with that. Askren, I think, comes with the ability that you can put him and throw him in with just about anyone. Same thing that Eddie Alvarez came over. And it's across the bear, because sometimes when you come from the UFC TV show, they're not going to run you into, you know, fighting the top guy in the weight class, right? They bring you along.
Right.
Not Eddie Alvarez, and I don't think I think Askren gets that same treatment. I think Eddie Alvarez, you know, came in ready to face the top guys on the roster, so they just threw him in. And I think Askren has to get that same treatment. Come in, prove yourself. You've been talking about how you can beat anyone in the UFC for so long. Come in and prove it. Here's your first fight, St. Pierre. You get a good paycheck. You beat him. You're in a good position. You've done everybody a lot of good, because I think the UFC probably thinks St. Pierre's a headache at this point.
Okay, so I think we pretty much beat a dead horse here. You got anything else to put in on this, Miguel, before we wrap this one up?
Nope, a lot of fun talking about it, and you know, we'll find out more when the commission acts, but they probably won't meet. It'll be at least a month. They might put it off for 2 months or even 3 months before we hear something, and then you know, it'll probably be that McGregor is free to fight. The UFC announces a fight for him, and that Khabib's going to be on the shelf a little more, and maybe have some of his purse he's going to give up to the state of Nevada.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the Cage Rage podcast below. Hit the red button and subscribe. Everything else is easily done. All you have to do is touch that red button, and that helps us out a whole bunch. Miguel, thank you for joining me today. We appreciate it. We'll get this up right away so you guys can start to look at what's going on with the commission with the big two. So we'll see you soon. Namaste.
All right.